Welcome to Money on Tap. Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. That's what we do on this show. We look at all sides of the issues, and we bring a fully independent planning perspective to the table.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Great to have you aboard today. My name is Seth Crossman here with Ben Brayshaw, Dan Mickle. And gentlemen, how are you today?
You must have been talking to me, Dan.
Yes. No.
The other gentleman.
Gentleman.
Yeah, there you go. The guy on the right.
That'd be me.
Who's right? Am I right? You're right?
How you doing, Seth? You having a good morning?
I'm well. It's a great morning here. Yeah. I'm glad to be here. Glad to be doing this with you guys. You know what? I couldn't ask for a better life.
Amen to that, my friend.
Wonderful. You're in a great place.
Yeah. I mean, I could, but I'm glad you're satisfied in our relationship, Seth. I'm glad to know that we're meeting all his needs, Dan. What do I feel good about that.
That's
I love how you fill it in with it's you, all about you. That could have nothing to do with you. It's my wife's birthday. There you go.
Oh, can't match up with that. I can't even.
No.
We just leave that alone.
Had something witty to say, but I'm going to put it away in case my wife's listening to the show.
Which she's not. Trust me. She's not taking any advice from you, last I heard.
Hey, Dan, I got to tell you, your wife ain't listening to you at home. She ain't listening to you here. Sorry.
No, that's a fact.
Doesn't work that way.
Oh, my wife had a question about the show, about something financial or whatever. She was asking me. I was like, well, we have a show about that. She's like, oh, I'm not listening to that.
Hard pass.
So, anyways, yeah. Well, no, have a good day. I'm excited about today's show. I think there's so much going on in the world around us. This election, I'm thinking about like RFK stepping up and, supporting Trump and a weird dynamic in our world. Like there's just the whole conversation about that stuff. I think everyone has this pent up concern about the election and where the markets are going to go and what that means. The Fed's rate stuff going on and, like how much are they going to lower rates? Are they going to lower rates? What does it look like? How much? When? I think about all the data coming out, trying to support. I was telling Dan this the other day. I was just saying, they've got to come up with data that looks really good to justify them lowering rates right before the election because they don't want to make it look too political. So, I mean, I'm such a conspiracy theorist, but I just don't think that they're really. They make the data say whatever they want to say. They exclude whatever they want to do. So there's so much going on, and I think everyone's feeling it. And how many people have you heard, Dan, just say, I can't wait till this election's over?
It's just building anxiety and stress, I think, in everybody.
Yeah.
And these Fed moves, I mean, it's always political. It's always been. That'll always be the case. So, I mean, the whole effort to point out the motivations in this particular move, I mean, I just think that's part of the backdrop and everything every federal agency does. I mean, it's a federal agency, bottom line. These people are appointed and,
Which is not the way it was meant to be by our forefathers. Just FYI. I mean, I don't know.
Oh, sure.
I mean, I don't need to give you a history lesson, but maybe I did,
Oh, man.
Just part of the story, Dan. Just part of the story.
That's true. It is the truth. And, the bottom line is there's just uncertainty. People are nervous. People are concerned. And all the news aside, when they're engaging with us anyway, because our scope's a little limited in terms of our impact on their lives, and in some ways, it's just all about the money. How are my investments going to do? Are we positioned for this? And where is the right place to be for any of these potential outcomes? Because no one knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think the fear that drives a lot of people is how am I going to be retired? How am I going to provide for my needs? How is every concern for my family, my children, my wife, my husband, whatever the story is, people are living in fear around. And I think, all of the news is about riling people up. And I think that's one of the big agendas is to try to, I do find that like in kind of the liberal side is this like fear and concern. They're going to take this from me. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. And I don't think the world's really like that. I mean, maybe I'm an optimist in that way, but I really think that people just want a better life. I think that's the American culture. And so the idea of everything being taken from you, I don't think that that's really real.
Yeah,
So
I think the psychology of finances and some of these concerns people have, I mean, there's two motivators. It's fear and greed, and the news is playing into both of them big time.
oh yeah, absolutely. And so that's swaying a lot of people. And honestly, the emotions of everybody out there is driving what the market does every day, right? I mean, if all of a sudden somebody says something's going to happen, everyone gets nervous and they're like, I don't want to be part of the next 2008, and you see the market make these much larger swings. The news is so readily available that everyone's getting it within seconds and making seconds of decisions within a stock trade. I mean, 100 years ago, you'd read the newspaper and find out something happened to GE a week later.
Yeah. I mean, you can read a headline and make a trade in a combined total of 10 seconds right now, right on your phone. Done.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm so glad that things are bright and rosy on your side of the world. You guys, it is in certain times. I don't want to even debate that. It is. It's a real season for a lot of people where they just don't know what to do. And that could be, even if things were as great as they are for me here today, if you were living in my rose-colored lenses today, you could still be having all of those concerns, and you could still be putting some really key elements in place for yourself to be successful in your investing. And that is what we're here to do with you today. Yes, you're listening to Money on Tap, and we are navigating your money in uncertain times today. Now, if you could, do me a favor, subscribe to the podcast, Money on Tap.
I did.
Write
Seth.
us
I
a
did
letter.
Subscribe.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Oh,
I did.
Okay, call us at 855-226-8551. Leave us a jingle and a message of who you are and that you subscribed, and then write us a letter at info@yourmoneyontap.com. Either way,
if we get a jingle,
those work.
if somebody sings a jingle, we're sending them a shirt. I mean, like straight up, sending you a shirt. You're going to sing, and we can put it on
I want
air.
one of those. I was going to say one of the Yeti mugs, one of the Yeti coffee mugs might be the
depending
thing
on the quality of the
winner.
jingle. I mean, if it's really good. I mean, if it's like
That would.
if it became our new theme song, level, I'm thinking
We could use a show open. We could use something.
we
like
could
that.
do so. Oh yeah, that would be
A
interesting.
little refresh.
Yeah, a little bang, bang, bang. I have a bunch of little jingles all at once, and all the different people called in. That would be fun.
Yeah, a little jingle a day does keep, I'm not sure what away, but you could probably include that in your jingle when you send it to us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. But yeah, we got gear for you at Money on Tap. We want to send that out to you when you subscribe to the podcast, when you leave us a star, or you can leave us 0 stars, but just let us know. We'll send you out some gear either way. And with that, you guys, we've got the show for you to feel confident in your investing, no matter if you're wearing the rose-colored lenses or not, or who you're voting for or not. It's going to be a great show to help put you in a wonderful position to be successful in your investing with your money. You're listening to Money on Tap, and it is time for Money in the News.
From Danny Romero at Yahoo Finance, U.S. home prices hit record high in June. And this is something that seems like it's been escalated for quite a while. I know interest rates, as they spiked, had an effect on sales, but home prices had been steadily increasing and steadily high. And in fact, on an annual basis, prices rose nationally 5.4% in June, a little less than the 5.9% increase seen in May, but was able to bring them to an all-time high. So for all of those...
This must not have been included in the 2.8% inflation rate.
No. That's very selective reasoning in all these inflation calculations. We know that's
5.9% in May.
We know that's been the case. And what's interesting here is the effect of some of this at a national level. The average mortgage payment rose 6.3%, or $137 in the last 12 months, to a total of $2,303 for June. So this is a report coming out of the National Association of Realtors, and this is just illustrating the point that the real estate market's been so hot. People have been buying their way and driving up prices even through this elevated rate environment. But hopefully this is an indication that perhaps we've peaked, and with rates easing up, maybe prices start to fall, and that ability to buy a home becomes a little bit more realistic.
Maybe. Or the demand's still so high that it's rising 5.9%. I mean, some of this stuff, we talked about this in one of the other articles, that 1 out of 5 single-family homes under $500,000, right, is purchased by an investment company. So BlackRock, Soros, whatever, are buying 1 out of 5. That's 20% of the single-family homes in the United States. That's crazy. Now, I know that they're regionally located where their allocations are, but that is what's driving home prices up pretty heavily and really killing a middle-class opportunity for the next generation, because if you can't get into a starter home, how do you get into your next home? So people are waiting a whole extra decade to even get into a property. I mean, I'm hearing about condos outside, not even in Boston, not even in the general outskirts of Boston, but outside, like outside the, like 495 area, even just like $500,000 for like a 1 or 2 bedroom condo, like crazy.
That is crazy.
So, anyways, I just heard some really, just absolutely nuts scenarios, but that's just the 5.9%. It doesn't include what's going on in New York, San Diego, Las Vegas. I mean, these things are like 8.5%. I mean, these are massive increases. And if they start lowering rates, I mean, why wouldn't the house prices go up?
Well, one of the things they point to in the article is that the inventory is on the rise, and that I think that takes a little bit of pressure off the potential buyers out there.
But not on the rise enough that you're actually seeing, an average increase in cost, because people only pay more when it's more scarcity, right? So I think when rates go down, I think we're going to see a ton of refinancing and, everything that's happened over the last few years. I think we're going to see, so mortgage opportunities from an investment side might be interesting. I think you've got buying is going to skyrocket. I think you're going to see inventory drop way off. People are going to make the move and they think that there's a chance. So if the Fed drops rates like a point, like a whole point, if we see, I saw like CNBC was talking about a quarter, half a quarter. They drop a whole point, you're going to see some massive refinancing across the board.
Yeah, it's tell me the last time that the real estate world was on the rise and the Fed was lowering rates. Those two things just don't happen simultaneous, and we've never seen anything like this. I don't think we have. The other show that we did where I was like, 9-0 landslide by the Supreme Court, and then you fact checked me on that, and we're like, no, that's pretty common. But this could be more common than I think. But I do not believe that there's ever been a season like this inside of rates and mortgage and real estate, and in inflation. That's been the deal, is inflation going crazy, and then rates, getting jacked up to 8%, and now they're down.
Seth,
to
I know you have
6.5%.
You have probably the most mortgage knowledge experience out of any of us here. I mean, at what point in time do you think refinancing is the ideal rate drop? Is it like 1% justify it, or like north of 0.5%, or when do you people really just grapple onto refinancing?
I think that's too complex of a question to really try to address simply by a rate drop. And I think what you wind up having inside of the refinance scenario is not only the improvement on the rates, but you have so much debt that's been acquired throughout the inflationary period. People just trying to keep up, that the only place that they can go is inside of their house, and that's where they're going to start to consolidate that debt. What the trigger is, where that needs to land, I have no clue. It's just probably more of a supply demand question or solution than I would know how to address.
Yeah, I just was thinking if my rate dropped 0.75% or 1% on like a 6%, 6% mortgage, would you refinance at 5.25% or 5%?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. Right.
Yeah.
Well, plus you have the people that picked up homes that bought homes at 8%, right? And then what's going to make a difference for them? A percent, and that's been pretty standard. If you drop 1.5%, go refi. That's especially if you're early on in your mortgage, because you're already just paying for interest anyways. But depending if you have 10 plus years on that, that's probably not going to happen. And realistically, they probably have something close to a 4% or something like that anyways.
Yeah.
Next up from CNN, Jeannie Shahidi. Paying money to get your own cash. Some big retailers charge for cashback requests. Federal agency fines.
This is a great buyer beware article, guys.
This was something I was unaware of and
I really
paid
was too.
zero attention to in my life, honestly.
But I don't do this. I mean,
Not often, but there'll be times at the grocery store or someplace. I typically don't think of it, but there certainly have been times because like everybody probably, I carry much less cash than I used to, right? Because everything's on the debit card.
Well, I just take it out of your wallet.
Well, that's why I have less cash than usual, I guess.
Me and your wife, we talk about it. I'm like, you take half, I take half. And she says, no, I'm taking 3/4. I'm like, I'll take it less.
Reminds me of son. My son took a $50 bill out of my wallet onto the bus last year and gave it away. That was awesome at school. Yeah, made its way back to me through the vice principal, but so that's a different kind of cashback story right there. Thank you, Memorial School in Bedford.
Oh yeah, there you go.
But yeah, so this the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau launched this study, and they just spot checked. They took 8 major retailers from a couple different categories. So it was Dollar General and Dollar Tree out of the dollar store world, 2 grocery stores, Kroger and Albertsons, 2 drugstores, Walgreens and CVS, and 2 discount stores, Walmart and Target. Although I don't know if I call those discount stores. Interesting categorizing there.
Yeah, I don't think of Target as discount anything, but go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And what they found is that 3 of the 8, in fact, do have hidden fees on cashback services. And this industry amounts to about a $90 million annual take.
$90 million.
In cashback
I could
fees.
not believe that this is like a big deal. I was thinking about this. Dollar General and Dollar Tree, right? Those people go there, and it is like trying to get the cheapest possible thing you can, like toilet paper, whatever. And, there's a huge population that goes to that store and needing a little bit of cash, $5, $10, $20. I need some cash. And they may not be taking out 50 or 100. This is a massive revenue source for them. I cannot believe how big this is. I mean, I just really think that, and I don't mean to line item, those 2 stores, but they're going to get a populace of people who do not have as much money as others. I mean, they're going to get most of the people who are really just bargain hunting, trying to make it by in their life, and they're like hammering these people for fees.
The CFPB that apparently doesn't regulate the retailers was basically not asserting that they're not allowed to charge these fees for the cashback services they provide. But they really estimated that the retailers' costs for managing the transactions are likely well below the fees that they're charging. So, of course, there would be a cost in here. What the net is on that, nobody really was hashing that piece out. And is it predatory, I think, is the thing.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's totally the right word.
Attention to.
Predatory.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to say, hey, is it costing them 5 cents to do this transaction and they're charging $1 or $2 or $5? I mean, if someone's taking, some of these fees are outrageous. Dollar General charges between $1 and $2.50 depending on the amount withdrawn. Kroger is like 50 cents for amounts $100 or less. So if Dollar General's charging $2.50 and Kroger's charging 50 cents and both of them are making money, well, I think Dollar General's making a ton of money here.
Yeah, it's not even level amongst them. I mean, there's some pretty wide variance. I mean, none of it seems like a massive fee, but on a percentage basis, they're not even close. Well, if you were drawing $20 and it cost you
$2
to do it, $2.50 to do it, I mean, that's
10% of your money. I mean, that's a huge rate of return. I mean, in a day. I mean, it's an overnight thing.
Yeah.
It's 10% charge.
Well, it's a $90 million industry no one ever heard of, is what we've come to find here.
It kind of reminds me of that, Seth, do you remember that Starbucks article we did about how much maybe it was. I know we've done Starbucks articles, but anyways, it was about like how much cash is on Starbucks apps that's just sitting out there. It can only be spent at Starbucks. Like it's literally just waiting to be spent. They have the money. It's theirs. It's just really, it's phenomenal. And like all these apps where you pay for your food when you go there with the app and stuff like that, and they give you points. They're making so much money on the amount of cash that's stored there. It's like incredible. So this kind of reminds me of this space. It's like that hidden gem of what these companies are doing. But I'm really glad that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is looking at this, because I really do think like a company needs to be paid and make money off the service they provide. I'm all for that. But I mean, a 10% fee when you might be taking advantage of somebody who maybe doesn't have a car and they're living, on food stamps and they need a little bit of cash and they got to get some money from the bank, but the bank's 5 miles away and they can't get there without getting an Uber. So paying the $2.50 fee to get $10 out is the cheapest option for them.
I mean, I think that's one scenario, but the bigger issue for me is it's not really disclosed. I mean, nobody's telling you this.
No.
So I think that's the struggle.
So
here.
Is it after you take the cash from Kroger or whatever store it is? They don't even say, do you accept the fee like an ATM would be?
I didn't see that here. I don't think so. I think it just shows up on your receipt. So, I mean, if you literally take the time to examine your receipt and see that, you might find it that way. But I don't think it's in any other way up front disclosed that there's going to be costs associated with it.
Oh, that's horrendous. Oh, yeah, that's even worse.
Yeah, that'll get you some hot water fast, not telling people what the fees are. Hey, we're not about that here at Money on Tap. We're telling you all about, we're not talking. We're not talking about that, you guys. We're getting into some navigating your money in uncertain times. This is not that show today, but this is the show to get you guys in the place where you need to be so that you can know how to navigate and where to go with your money, whether the market's going up or down, or your favorite person's in office or not. Whatever the scenario is, this is a great show for you guys to just come back into some financial practices and understanding that's going to allow you to navigate really well. You're listening to Money on Tap. We're not going anywhere. Neither should you. We'll be right back with more Money on Tap.
Are you looking for professional guidance to kickstart your investing journey? Look no further. Brayshaw Financial Group and our planners are here to help. Our team of experts will provide personalized advice tailored to your financial goals. Visit BrayshawFinancial.com today to schedule your free consultation. Brayshaw Financial, investing made easy.
Thank you for joining us for Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more of this week's show with Ben, Seth, and Dan.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Thank you for subscribing to the podcast. Please drop us a line at info@yourmoneyontap.com. Let us know because we want to send you out some Money on Tap gear. We are navigating your money during uncertain times. And for starters, why wouldn't we talk about fixed income? Fixed income. Some people think it's, a haven during stormy waters, and it can certainly be a life preserver if you are dependent on income in retirement. Fixed income is one of the bellwethers and one of the mainstays that you want to make sure that you have inside of a portfolio of your finances. And yes, now we actually have fixed income that has some kind of return versus, several years ago, and for years and years and years, there was nothing inside of fixed income. So what a great opportunity to step into, what fixed income has to offer. And there's all sorts of versions of fixed income for you guys today.
Yeah, I think the fixed income space is probably the most opportunistic it's ever been in a decade and a half almost, maybe more. You can we have money markets that are 5.5%, interest accrues daily, pays monthly. You could have a, money market currently right now, making that money over 3 weeks and then pop it back out to your bank account and have earned that interest. I mean, that's huge opportunity we haven't seen. I mean, a lot of people, Monte Carlo used to base everything off of 5%. You can take 5% out of what you own, live off of that for retirement. And, that hasn't been a reality, till now, forever. It's just not even been a commonplace. You couldn't get that in bonds. You couldn't get that anywhere unless you were going into some really high-level junk kind of situations, which we would never recommend.
Yeah, it's the first time in a while where a flight to safety actually was meaningful. In years past, in not so distant years past, getting out of the market during turbulent times meant you were settling for zero.
Well, yeah, I mean,
really were calling it quits.
I mean, you're like, hey, listen, do you want to get remember it was like you get zero at the bank, or you could buy this stock paying XYZ dividend of 3% or 4%. It's like now I can make 5.5% in a banking asset, with full FDIC coverage, or I can try to beat that in the market. It's definitely a more debatable conversation. I think we've taken in more cash in this year into money markets than I think I've ever seen with clientele.
Oh, I'm sure. Easily. Must be.
It's crazy amounts of money. And I think for people who are really looking for banking assets, we have two options that are really very, very unique, probably unheard of by some of the wealthier people. But we have FDIC coverage with those kind of money market rates and so forth available, up to $5 million for a joint account. That's something that's unusual. We only get $250,000 at the bank per person. We can get up to $5 million jointly. But we also have another FDIC. It's lower interest rates and so forth, but we can get up to $50 million per Social Security number with FDIC coverage. Super unique opportunities for the right person, but $50 million single account with FDIC coverage, $50 million. So when you're debating the $250,000 story at the local bank, we can set up straight up ACH. You can have that money in a day or two. Super simple.
Yeah, and it's been such a competitive market lately too. When you're just driving around, it's like everybody has a billboard out there of what their checking account is going to yield, and the terms on those are pretty typical. Maybe up to $50,000, $25,000, something along that, for they're 4.5%, 5% maybe on those checking accounts. So to be able to be in a market where typically we're not necessarily, I say we're not, but, going out and kind of shopping for that client or that customer that's looking for a checking account or a savings account with that kind of yield on it. But it's been a fun conversation for us to be able to say, hey, look, you're great. Use your checking account, but you're tapped. You're capped, right? You're not going to be, really making that money on the rest of that over there. And let's stash it over here and get you your 5.5%, whatever those offerings are, and be fully liquid. That's fun.
Yeah, Seth. I mean, it's like people don't realize how simple, right, Dan, these ACH programs that we can set up with banking. It's phenomenal. I mean, literally, we hit a button and boom, the money's heading your way. I mean, you give it a day or two because all banks are a little different or whatever, but it's super simple. So to have that kind of accessibility to, great return, for a fixed asset and, full liquidity and all of those things is just like in the FDIC coverage opportunities. It's a no nonsense, real simple, like you just shouldn't even debate this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, when you're thinking about the rate attached and then the concern around, regional banking and, kind of making the choices amongst which are the most solvent, because we've been through a couple banking crises lately and there's, potentially more on the way. This is just a safer way to do it, to be able to stack those accounts and hit those, higher than 250,000 individual or 500,000 joint protections that the FDIC typically offers. I mean, we can protect much more.
Yeah, I mean, people get buyouts, from private equity or this, that, or the other thing. They get $10 million, $20 million, $100 million buyout. It's like, hey, I want to protect that money. Well, yeah, we can open up two accounts for you and your wife, $100 million worth of FDIC coverage. Oh, we can open up a trust. We can, create another $50 million worth of FDIC coverage. Oh, and we can get you a really great return, for a fixed asset. I mean, that has not existed. And probably most people and most other firms out there don't even have access to that, which is a phenomenal offering that we have for the right people. But then the $5 million we can have locally over the 500,000 max. I mean, at the bank, it's just like killing people. And with the inflation, with the money the Fed, the government has pushed out over the last few years. A lot of people have cash. They took an ERC loan, or they did this, or they did that, and they just got cash sitting around. I was just talking to a client the other day. I just said, you got this ERC loan that's there for you. I was like, you might as well be studious about it and put it in a money market and just make a fixed return until you need the money. You're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
So great options for people who want to get out of the market in this uncertainty, but For those who have the tolerance to stay in, and their philosophy, their approach to this is just to stay invested through all these times. And we've spoken before about it's not really timing the market; it's time in the market. So if that's your perspective, diverse investing to bring diversity to your portfolio is a good way to weather these storms. Particularly, we have a large focus here in our practice on value investing and taking a look at really high-quality stocks that give you the opportunity to earn just for owning them. And we find that to be the portfolio design that really weathers all of these opportunities for, high volatility that we're experiencing right now. These portfolios, the play around value is a time-tested and really a good approach to it, we feel, in these uncertain times.
Yeah, it's diversification is the concept that you're not going to have all your eggs in one basket, and how people kind of associate with that is really an interesting part of the story too. It's some people consider diversification, owning an index fund because it's the S&P 500, it's the Dow, and it's or whatever the Russell 1000 value. That's what their concept of diversification is. And today, it's a really critical thing to understand that that's a market tool. And the market tool follows the market. And if you want to break out certain subsets of the assets that are in the market, like we did the S&P 500, the 11 sectors, there is greater diversification if you want to pull each one of those apart. But you have to be aware really how you are investing in those. Now, what does that really translate to, or what is it really intended for? When the market's going up, right, your diversified portfolio will have assets in it that you'd look at and say, oh, wow, those are underperforming. And what that is it is a dislocation from the market. It is taking a part of your portfolio, and it's not intended to perform really well when the market's doing really well. What it's intended to do is when the market tanks, it's a factor inside of that that's going to bring some buoyancy to it's going to help. That's not the term, I know, but it's going to help keep your assets above water, so it's not all tanking while you're trying to draw an income source off of that, or keep you inside a certain amount of risk threshold so you don't lose your mind when you start to see parts of your portfolio aren't doing so hot. You need to continue to stick with the strategy because over time that strategy does pay off. But how you build that diversification needs to not just be sectors of the market or bonds and equities. There has to be something inside of there that says, hey, I am a short-term investor for this kind of an asset or a long-term for this kind. Time can be an asset for you as well inside of diversification. So understanding that, if you build it well, it works phenomenally. And I also do, right there with you, Dan, I love our large cap, mid cap portfolio because it has accomplished those goals for us and really well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just going on to the next piece we have, a lot of people in this fear-based uncertain times are like, I just can't take the risk. I mean, one of the things about diversification, like you said, time in the market, Dan, just having the ability to sit there and wait, right? But for some people, you're 6 months, a year away from retiring, and you're staring down what you feel is like the gun or the barrel of, how is this going to work? I mean, I was reading a statistic about the number of people who literally fear retirement because of they just don't know if they're going to be living in poverty and what's going to happen. And there's so much stress and anxiety about retiring. It's really scary. Where did I read that? I just was reading that the other day.
I saw that. I think it was one of our Money in the News that we were looking at. And
one of the things we were considering. Yeah. I was just like, I was just like that. It was really surprising. We'll have to bring that article in because
more people are. It's like more people are scared about retirement than they are death. I was like, well, seriously.
I'm kind of. I'd probably be in that camp too. I don't think my mind's going to retire anytime. Kim wants me at work, so. But anyways, for the people who are afraid, and it's just like I need some certainty that retirement's going to be successful. I mean, a lot of people have a bad rap on annuities, but the annuity scenario is really, in today's world, you can buy some really low fee, low cost annuities that can provide lifetime income at some exceptionally high rates where, you're at least guaranteed to get, your principal and more back depending on what the market does. So, there's not that kind of like, there's not the high fee, miserable, not going to do anything for you kind of annuity story out there like there used to be. There's definitely more competitive, definitely more market centric, but with income solutions that give you, peace of mind, which some people need. And we talk about that a lot in the foundational space of like, well, if this is your mortgage, well, then you need some sort of fixed asset to provide enough income for you that's going to meet that mortgage payment no matter what happens in the market. That could be the money market at 5.5% today, but that didn't exist 5 years ago either.
And the difference between the money market and the annuity at 5.5% is that's a floating yield. I mean, that yield will recede at some point. When the Fed cuts rates, those yields will come back down. Whereas the annuity is an alternative, is certainly going to be a lesser rate to start with, but you are purchasing some kind of guarantee, right? So that is the opposite of uncertainty. There's going to be some trade-off in cost and invested dollars, but there's some guarantee for income that comes from that.
I'm thinking, I think we had a client in California who they really had an income need, and we really encouraged them to do an annuity. We just said, listen, the amount of fear you have around this is this is not a market dependent kind of fear. Anyways, yeah. So I do remember having a conversation with them about a year or so later, and they were like, "Wow, I'm really glad I did that. Like, you were so right. I feel so good." Like, the market had pulled back at one point, and they were scared what was going to happen in their world, and they're like, "You know what? That annuity just came through like the next day. It hit my bank account, and I was like, yeah, I don't even think about it."
Yeah, some people they present themselves as aggressive, and I'm not necessarily thinking about that scenario, but they want to be in the market. They want to be in the market. They're looking at their values every day. They're just really focused in on it. But there's just so much angst and anxiety in every conversation you have with them, and they've done it, and but they're not sleeping at night. They're like, are you sure this is for you? I mean, there are some ways where we can, really back off some
of the
market's
been good. Our portfolio has done well. I mean, like, you look at what the market's done the last 5 years. There's no reason for angst other than the fact that all they do is they talk about angst. They want, right, Seth? They want the whole news media wants you to be engaged. So what do? They create fear and they get you riled up and they make you scared.
It's the business model. It's it's what they're in business to do. And if you think the news is there to help you.
They talk about the Dow. They're like, the Dow's up, the Dow's down. I can't remember. This is years ago. Somebody was like, "Oh, the Dow was down today. I can't believe how much it was down." And I was like, "You don't even own any of the 30 stocks in the Dow."
No. Yeah. I mean,
I was
nothing
like, "What do you
to
care?"
Yeah. I mean, that's really as much time as we spend in the market too, it is really great when we're doing the planning work and people are really concerned to be able to have confidence that, hey, we've done the work, right? You're okay. You're okay. You're more than okay. Good job. Pat yourself on the back. And let's go ahead and have a fruitful conversation. Like right now, it's time for us to take a break. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551. Or after you subscribe to Money on Tap and leave us 5 stars. I know you're going to do that too. Send us a message at info@yourmoneyontap.com, and we got some Money on Tap gear for you.
Hey everyone, Dan Mickelon here with Brayshaw Financial. Looking for a hassle-free way to invest? Look no further than Brayshaw Financial Group. With Brayshaw Financial Group, you can start investing with as little as $100, enjoy a user-friendly platform with a diverse range of investment options. Visit Brayshaw Financial Group and start your investment journey today. Brayshaw Financial Group, investing made easy.
We appreciate you listening to Money on Tap with Ben, Seth, and Dan. You can contact us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more of this week's program.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We're navigating your money in uncertain times today. And with that, why would you not have the experts help you out, right? There's parts of personal finance that, you do the Dave Ramsey thing, right? You get yourself past college, you save, you get life insurance or term life insurance for, yourself and you're newly married and for the kids. And, all those things really should have somebody kind of helping you out and at least giving you some opportunity to become educated around these topics. And as you start to develop your assets, you, generally speaking, start to have more and more and get to a point where it's like, you know what, the internet is not helping me out like it used to on specific topics or, where I'm at, and how do I start to create goals and do some of these other financial planning things that are really significant. Am I tracking with my goals, and how does the conditions right now, how do they help me or protect me, or how am I vulnerable? So that's where you really want to make sure you're getting some professional services and engagement here. And as in anything, I would say you want to be paying for those as well, because, everything has a price. Free has a price, believe it or not. And unfortunately, a lot of people pay that price before they come and they talk to us, and they didn't have to. But that's okay. That's the way life works. But we're here for you, and others are as well, to really help you wrap your arms around this and make the right choices for you.
Yeah, good advice is worth the cost and the time invested. And I think that's the situation where if you find yourself feeling uncertain, not really sure where your risk tolerance is anymore, and kind of debating internally whether it's time to get out of the market or diversify, that means it's time to sit down with somebody. When you have that many questions kind of bouncing around, take the opportunity to meet with a professional, really lay out, not only what you have and what your goals are, but what you're feeling in the moment, and take some real good guidance to find just an easier way to sleep at night. And even if ultimately the end of that conversation is, everything's well positioned, you're just going to feel better having gone through the experience. I mean, with the people that we meet with by and large, we don't do business with everybody, but, I feel as though, they all leave here feeling better than they came in, more reassured, a little bit more stability under their feet, and, feeling better about what lays ahead.
Yeah, I can't stress this enough. If you're not getting professional help, and it doesn't need to be from us, I'm biased. I think, we're some of the best planners out there. I think we're probably more innovative than most. And it's not coming from a cookie cutter kind of, hierarchy from like a major firm name. We can actually sit on your side of the table and look at, lots of different investments from a lot of different perspectives, from, good stock market performance to, fixed assets. We talked about, we manage a lot of cash for people. That is a big concern for people, is just managing their cash. If you're not getting real professional help, it is a mistake. And that's the truth. And I would hope that you do the due diligence, find the right people for yourself, and that's great. But if you haven't, or you feel like you haven't, test us out. I think that would be the best encouragement we have. People don't probably know this. I don't think I've ever aired this before, but I pray all the time that God would send the right clients and send the wrong ones away. I don't want people that I shouldn't work with. That's my number one prerogative. I've been that way for 20 years. I've prayed that prayer consistently. I really want to work with the people that God has in store for me to provide help and meet their need. And I truly believe that that's part of our mission here. I know both of you guys feel that way. I know all our partners do. That's my prerogative. And I don't really necessarily care how much wealth or how much poverty you may feel like you're living in and not there enough. We're here. This is part of our mission. So that's why we do this show. And I think that's important. So get professional help. Test us out. That's my encouragement for you. Next up we have, historical data and lessons. For a lot of people, they don't really understand the history of the market and what's going on in the different economic climates and how that exists. And I think that usually catches people off guard when they've invested money they shouldn't have. I think when you put money at risk that you shouldn't have done and you feel concerned or worried about it, at that point in time, you probably shouldn't have taken that risk with either some or all of that money.
Yeah, I think if you're going to get invested, that decision has to come with some awareness that this thing can go a number of different ways, and there's preparedness you have to bring yourself to. There's a level of understanding that this might not be a great outcome immediately. It might take some time, and if you are able to get yourself there mentally, I think that's when you begin to be prepared to do this. If you're not in that space, we still have conversations that we can have with you. We still have opportunities, but it'll be more things like the money markets. While you're already getting used to working with a professional, getting your arms around, understanding the dynamics of the market, that doesn't mean, while you're still in that phase, you got to bury the money under your mattress. You can still get some earnings and take very little risk. In fact, we consider it to be risk-free, but that's almost never the case. Some of these banks do go under, but 5.5% with FDIC insurance in a well-constituted account that's protected a number of different ways. I mean, that's really low risk. And it's a way to kind of get yourself into the mindset. It's kind of that first step into really making investments.
Well, I think that's one of the things that people are really concerned about. They're concerned about, coin currencies becoming the way of the future, the U.S. dollar crashing, the gold standard coming back. Like, there's all these conversations that people are worried about. And when you think about the Silicon Valley Bank crashing, it gets us back to the conversation of, FDIC coverage. And we talked about this earlier in the show, but I can't stress it enough. Like, cash management and cash security is really important. Having $50 million of FDIC coverage available to a husband and a wife. If you have a husband and wife, it could be $100 million of FDIC coverage. That's incredible, making, north of 4.5% rate of return. In our money markets locally, we literally have a 5.5% yielding money market with $5 million worth of FDIC coverage. Like, we have all these different avenues and things to vet that taking risks and fear are just not relevant.
Got a lot still on our plate, you guys. Part of is really in the creation of your portfolio. It's really understanding what it means to be balanced. I think having the assets that you have all out in front of you so you can really see how you're weighted, because so many people have majority of their assets inside of real estate, and we love real estate, and real estate goes through its own cycles, its ebbs and flows, and it is a highly illiquid asset as well. So really understanding that inside of what you own as well, the 401k being kind of a secondary place that many people, kind of have this false sense of security and feeling that there's a balance inside of that because, they've used a target date fund, and that means, I plan to retire in such and such a date and time, and that's what they're using. And that doesn't necessarily create any kind of a balance in terms of their whole financial picture, you guys. There's a lot more to cover, and we're going to take a quick break and be right back. And while you're at it, go subscribe to Money on Tap and drop us a line at info@yourmoneyontap.com, and we'd love to send you out some Money on Tap gear. Thanks for continuing to be here with us today. We'll be back with more navigating inside money, your money, and in certain times. Hey guys, Seth Cressman with Brayshaw Financial Group. Are you ready to take control of your financial future? Look no further than Brayshaw Financial Group. Our team of experienced advisors is dedicated to helping beginners like you build wealth through smart investing strategies. Visit BrayshawFinancial.com today and start your journey towards financial independence. Brayshaw Financial Group, your partner in wealth creation.
You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more Money on Tap with Ben, Seth, and Dan.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. And we are navigating your money in uncertain times. Just touched briefly on, balance. And that's kind of one of those terms that a lot of people throw around, like diversification. And, don't necessarily really understand all that entails and how that really helps or how to do it appropriately. One of the things I would say as you're taking a look at that yourself and what assets you have, how heavily are you weighted in one versus another? What do those mean? How do they accomplish their goals? Because that's what we're talking about, is you and your goals, is the rebalancing. Okay. And yes, it has the term balance in there, but what does that mean? It's taking your portfolio, and as time goes on, it will become unbalanced. It will just, certain assets will grow above and beyond what they're intended to be inside of the percentages inside of your portfolio. And the way that you want to try to address that is pretty much on an annual basis. That would be a minimum. Make sure that you're rebalancing that. And it's super simple inside your 401k or your simple plan to do that. It's usually just check a box and push the button and it rebalances for you. Or you can also have it set up as an automatic part of your plan too.
Yeah, inside of that conversation, it's interesting because we did a show recently about the structure of ETFs and particularly index-based ETFs. And we thought, or I think it was a little bit enlightening. I think we knew some of this, but for a lot of people who would just index invest in their 401k, Seth, you mentioned that where they're buying some given percentage of the S&P, some given percentage of the NASDAQ, some given percentage of the Dow Jones or the Russell. It's important to take one step deeper dive and just this will take all of about 10 minutes, but each of those positions you're buying, again, if you're index investing, just take a look at that particular ticker, which is the letter-based code that identifies that given investment, and just look at the top 10 holdings. Because what we've come to find is that the S&P and the NASDAQ, a lot of those investment tools out there, and there's variance there for sure, but a lot of them are very heavily weighted in the same individual stocks. So when you talk about balance, reallocating a certain percentage from the S&P holding to the NASDAQ holding, you may feel like you rebalanced, but in reality, you may not have.
You just shifted.
Yeah, it's the same stocks.
I know. It's really funny. Weathering market volatility, as we kind of land this ship here, the volatility we're staring at is this election right now. I mean, a lot of people are really concerned with what's going on. I think, I saw something about another bombing thing with Israel and stuff the other day too, and there's just so much upheaval in this world. People are concerned, and there's a lot going on. There's returns. The returns the year after an election year, kind of irrelevant of who's elected. I think what's interesting is that it's usually up. The stock market is usually up. So next year, the gamble is. I hate to use that word, but the gamble is that the stock market is going to be up. So, ride the wave, right? Like that's the weathering the market volatility is staying the course, riding the wave, because theoretically, statistically, the market rules are in your favor. Now, it's not usually as up as the actual election year that we're in right now, but it is traditionally up. So that's kind of some good news for the people who are weathering the course and staying the course kind of scenario. And I think that's the biggest issue that a lot of people are afraid of, is like, should I pull out and just go to cash? Well, we've got cash management. We can totally do that if that's your risk tolerance. And for some people, just making 5.5% is good enough. I mean, we've done better than that in our portfolios this year by a large margin. But if that's what brings you peace of mind and able to sleep at night, I encourage you to do it, because that's the best thing. I'd rather have a client who's happy, satisfied, and feels calm than somebody who's calling on a regular basis in fear of something that doesn't even true. People talk themselves into fear. It's really incredible. We had the market down in July, and our stock portfolio was actually up. And I had someone call me like, "What's going on with the market? What do you think?" I'm like, well, you don't need to worry. We're actually up in the stocks we're on. And so that was kind of a funny scenario. People talk themselves into fear and what they believe is reality. Kind of like that client who was talking about the Dow being down. And I was like, well, you don't even own a Dow stock right now.
Hey, great news, you guys. You have listened to Money on Tap, and you've got some great information here for navigating your money in uncertain times. What are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that? Because it is the action that you take with the information that you have. That's the power in it, right? And you are, because you're here today, listening to Money on Tap, you're investing in yourself, and you're becoming a successful investor and taking that next step. That's what we're here for. We love the fact that you are here with us, and we cannot wait to meet you back here again next week. Be successful in your investing, and make it a great week.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through Osaic Wealth Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of Osaic Wealth Incorporated. Osaic Wealth Incorporated and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.
Well, bye.